If your belly fat will not move after 50, even when you eat less than you used to, the easy explanation is that your willpower failed, but that explanation is too small. After 50, the belly can become the place where several systems meet: muscle loss, insulin, sleep, stress, alcohol, inflammation, and daily movement. That is why the same food and the same walk can produce a different body than it did 20 years ago. The rule did not disappear. The machinery changed. The mistake is treating belly fat after 50 like a simple storage problem. It is often a signal that the body is storing energy in the wrong place, around the organs, while losing the tissue that burns energy best. That is the system I want you to see. Belly fat is not all the same. The soft fat you can pinch under the skin is subcutaneous fat. The deeper fat inside the abdomen, packed around the liver, intestines, pancreas, and other organs is visceral fat. Visceral fat matters because it is metabolically active. It does not just sit there like padding, it talks to the rest of the body through hormones, inflammatory signals, fatty acids, and insulin resistance. That is why a bigger waist can matter, even when the scale has not changed very much. A person can lose muscle, gain visceral fat, and keep almost the same body weight. From the outside, it looks confusing. Inside, the trade is obvious: less engine, more storage. Before we go deeper, one medical warning matters. Sudden unexplained belly swelling, severe abdominal pain, vomiting, black stools, yellow skin, rapid weight loss, or swelling with shortness of breath should not be treated as ordinary fat. New abdominal enlargement can come from fluid, liver disease, digestive problems, tumors, heart problems, medicines, or other medical conditions. If the change is sudden, painful, or unexplained, get medical evaluation. And if you have diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease, or take medications that affect weight, this conversation belongs with your clinician. Now let us talk about the stuck system. The first part of the system is muscle. Muscle is not only for strength. Muscle is an energy sink. It pulls glucose out of the blood, stores glycogen, burns fuel, supports insulin sensitivity, and raises the amount of energy your body can use. After about 30, muscle mass and strength tend to decline if you do not train against resistance. After 50, that decline can become more visible because daily activity often becomes easier, slower, and less muscular. When muscle shrinks, the body has less place to put glucose after meals. The pancreas may have to release more insulin to handle the same meal. Higher insulin is not evil, it is a storage and traffic signal. But when insulin stays high too often, fat release becomes harder. This is why belly fat can feel stuck even when you're trying. The body is not ignoring you. It is responding to the signals it receives most often. The second part is insulin resistance. In insulin resistance, cells do not respond to insulin as cleanly as they should. So the body often makes more insulin to get the job done. That can keep blood sugar normal for a while, but the cost is a system that is more storage prone. Visceral fat and insulin resistance can reinforce each other. More visceral fat worsens metabolic signaling, and worse metabolic signaling makes it easier to keep storing around the waist. This is not a character flaw. It is a feedback loop. The third part is the liver. The liver is deeply involved in how the body handles sugar, fat, and stored energy. When visceral fat rises, fatty acids and inflammatory signals can reach the liver more directly. Over time, the liver can become more likely to make and release glucose when the body does not need as much. It can also become part of fatty liver patterns. A stubborn waist can therefore be a liver signal, not only a stomach shape. The fourth part is sleep. Poor sleep changes appetite signals, stress hormones, glucose control, and the decisions you make the next day. When sleep is short, many people feel hungrier, crave faster food, move less, and tolerate glucose worse. That means a bad night can turn into a worse metabolic day. This is why belly fat after 50 is often connected to sleep, even when the person thinks sleep has nothing to do with weight. Sleep apnea matters even more. Repeated oxygen drops at night can stress the nervous system and worsen blood pressure, glucose control, and fatigue. A person may wake up tired, move less, crave more, and still blame only calories. Calories matter, but the system deciding hunger, movement, and storage has been pushed all night. The fifth part is stress. Stress does not create belly fat by magic. But chronic stress can raise cortisol patterns, disturb sleep, increase cravings, change blood sugar, and make recovery worse. Cortisol is not bad by itself. You need it to wake up, respond to danger, mobilize fuel, and handle pressure. The problem is when the stress signal becomes too frequent and the body keeps preparing for a threat that never ends. A body that feels unsafe often becomes more conservative with energy. It moves less, sleeps worse, craves faster fuel, and stores more easily. The sixth part is alcohol. Alcohol adds calories, but that is not the only issue. The liver has to process alcohol before many other fuels. Alcohol can also weaken sleep, lower food restraint, raise late-night eating, and make the next day less active. So the belly does not only remember the drink, it remembers the sleep, food, liver load, and low movement that often come with it. The seventh part is protein. After 50, protein matters because the body is fighting two problems at once. You want to lose fat, but you do not want to lose the muscle that helps you control glucose and burn energy. If a person simply eats less and does not train muscle, the weight can fall while the engine shrinks too. That can make the next fat loss attempt harder. This is why I do not like crash diets after 50. They can make the scale move while damaging the very tissue that makes long-term control easier. The eighth part is food quality. Ultra-processed foods are often designed to be easy to overeat. They combine refined starch, sugar, fat, salt, low fiber, and strong flavor in a way that bypasses normal stopping signals. This does not mean you need a perfect diet. It means the waist often responds to the foods that repeatedly make hunger and insulin control harder. Fiber changes the system. Protein changes the system. Strength training changes the system. Walking after meals changes the system. Sleep changes the system. The belly moves when the system stops receiving the same storage signals every day. If this kind of explanation helps you understand your body more clearly, subscribe to Feynman's Body Code and write your age and country in the comments. Plus, whether your belly changed after 40, 50, or 60. I want to see where this pattern shows up, because belly fat after 50 is not one country's problem. It is a human pattern shaped by food, sleep, work, stress, hormones, medicine, and movement. Now let us make the system practical. The first rule is that crunches do not target visceral belly fat. Crunches can strengthen abdominal muscles, but they do not tell the body to pull fat from one exact place. Spot reduction is one of the most expensive myths in fitness. The body reduces fat through whole body energy balance and metabolic signaling, not by obeying the muscle you just squeezed. So the goal is not to punish the belly. The goal is to change the signals that make the body keep storing there. The first lever is waist measurement. The scale can lie by staying the same while muscle falls and visceral fat rises. A waist tape tells a different story. Measure at the same place, relaxed, after exhaling without pulling the tape into the skin. Do it once a week, not 10 times a day. You're looking for a trend, not a mood. The second lever is protein at the first meal. This does not mean everyone needs the same breakfast. It means the first meal should help control hunger and protect muscle, instead of starting the day with a glucose spike and a crash. Eggs, Greek yogurt, fish, lean meat, tofu, beans, or other protein sources can all play that role depending on the person. The important idea is anchoring the meal. The third lever is strength training. 2 or 3 sessions a week can tell muscle that it is still needed. The exercises do not have to be dramatic. Squats to a chair, wall push-ups, rows, carries, step-ups, and resistance bands can all send the signal. The signal is mechanical tension. Mechanical tension tells the body to keep or build the tissue that helps handle glucose. That is why strength training belongs in a belly fat plan, even when the belly is the visible problem. The fourth lever is walking, especially after meals. A 10-minute walk after a meal can help muscles take up glucose and reduce the size of the post-meal spike. It is not about burning thousands of calories, it is about giving glucose somewhere to go. After 50, that matters because the body often handles the same carbohydrate load less cleanly than before. The fifth lever is fiber. Fiber slows digestion, supports fullness, changes the gut environment, and can improve the shape of the glucose response. Beans, lentils, vegetables, berries, oats, chia, flax, and whole grains are not magic. They are structural foods that make overeating harder and metabolic control easier. The sixth lever is reducing liquid calories and alcohol. the body often fails to compensate fully for calories that arrive as drinks. Alcohol also pulls the liver into a different priority list. If the waste will not move, alcohol is one of the first livers worth auditing honestly. The seventh lever is sleep timing. You do not need perfect sleep to lose belly fat, but chronically short sleep makes the fight harder. A consistent wake time, morning light, less late-night eating, and fewer screens late at night can help the system settle. If snoring, choking, morning headaches, or daytime sleepiness are present, sleep apnea deserves attention. The eighth lever is stress recovery. Stress recovery does not mean pretending life is calm. It means giving the nervous system repeated exits, walking, breathing, sunlight, social connection, prayer, stretching, or quiet time. Those exits reduce the need to keep living in emergency fuel mode. Now here's the most important part. Do not try to pull every lever on Monday. That is how people burn out by Thursday. Start with the lever that matches your stuck system. If hunger controls the evening, start with protein and fiber earlier in the day. If glucose spikes are the pattern, start with after-meal walking and fewer refined carbohydrates. If the body feels weak and soft, start with strength training and protein. If the waist grows with alcohol and late snacks, start with evening timing. If sleep is broken, start there, because tired people rarely execute perfect nutrition plans. Now let us separate 4 different belly fat patterns, because not every stuck waist is stuck for the same reason. Pattern 1 is the insulin pattern. This is the person who gets sleepy after meals, craves carbohydrates at night, carries more fat around the waist, and feels hungry again sooner than expected. In this pattern, the first question is not how to suffer more. The first question is how to flatten the glucose and insulin waves that keep pushing storage. Protein, fiber, fewer refined carbohydrates, and a walk after meals are the cleanest first moves. Pattern 2 is the muscle loss pattern. This is the person whose weight may not look shocking, but the arms, legs, and hips feel softer or weaker while the waist keeps expanding. In this pattern, eating less without lifting is a trap. The body may lose more engine while protecting the belly. The first move is to make muscle necessary again. Pattern 3 is the stress and sleep pattern. This is the person who knows what to eat in the morning, then becomes a different person at night. The problem is not ignorance. The problem is a tired nervous system trying to buy quick relief with food. In this pattern, sleep timing and stress exits are not soft advice. They are part of appetite control. Pattern 4 is the alcohol and evening pattern. This is the person who eats reasonably most of the day, then the evening quietly erases the deficit. Alcohol, late snacks, poor sleep, and lower next day movement can become one loop. In this pattern, the waist often changes when the evening changes. That is why the best plan depends on the pattern. A person with insulin resistance needs a different first lever than a person whose main problem is late-night sleep collapse. A person losing muscle needs a different first lever than a person drinking calories without noticing. This is where many diets fail. They give one rule to 4 different systems. Eat less can work on paper, but the body has to execute it in real life. Real life includes hunger, fatigue, pain, stress, sleep, social meals, medications, and a body that may already be metabolically stressed. So the question is not only can you create a calorie deficit, the question is, can you create a deficit without shrinking muscle, wrecking sleep, driving hunger, and making the plan impossible to repeat? That is the difference between a diet and a system repair. A diet asks for restriction. A system repair asks what signal is missing. Maybe the missing signal is muscle tension. Maybe the missing signal is morning protein. Maybe the missing signal is movement after food. Maybe the missing signal is sleep regularity. Maybe the missing signal is stopping the evening loop. Once you find the missing signal, the plan becomes less dramatic and more precise. Now let us talk about the belly itself. A large waist can mean more subcutaneous fat, more visceral fat, bloating, fluid posture changes, or a combination. This is why sudden abdominal size changes deserve caution. But when the pattern is slow, painless, and metabolic, waist measurement becomes useful. Measure around the level of the navel. After exhaling, with the tape level and relaxed, do not pull the tape tight to make yourself feel better. And do not measure after a giant meal and call that body fat. Use the same conditions each week. You're trying to watch a trend, not punish a day. A second measurement is strength. Can you stand from a chair without using your hands? Can you carry groceries without feeling unusually weak? Can you climb stairs with control? These are not just fitness questions. They tell you whether the engine is still there. A third measurement is the after-meal crash. If lunch makes you sleepy every day, the belly may be part of a glucose handling story. A fourth measurement is the evening loop. Many people do not overeat all day. They overeat in a narrow, exhausted window. That window is easier to fix when you see it clearly. A fifth measurement is sleep debt. If your waste plan depends on perfect discipline while you sleep 5 hours, the plan is built on sand. Sleep is not a bonus habit, it is part of the metabolic foundation. These measurements make the topic less emotional. They turn belly fat from shame into signals. This is what I mean by the system being stuck. It is not that fat has a mind of its own. It is that the body keeps receiving signals that say store, protect, conserve, and prepare. To move belly fat after 50, you have to replace those signals with stronger ones. Build muscle. Move glucose after meals. Sleep enough to control hunger. Reduce the drinks and foods that make overeating effortless. Measure the waste so you're not fooled by the scale, and keep the plan boring enough that you can repeat it. The boring plan is usually the one the body believes. Here is a clean 7-day audit. For 7 days, measure your waist once at the start and once at the end. Track protein at the first meal. Walk for 10 minutes after the meal that usually makes you sleepy. Do 2 short strength sessions, even if they are simple. Remove or reduce liquid calories and alcohol for the week. Protect your sleep window. Then look at hunger, energy, waist tightness, morning weight, and how your clothes fit. This will not transform a body in 7 days, but it will reveal which signal your body responds to first. That is how you stop guessing. The waist is not just a storage drawer. It is a report card from muscle, liver, sleep, stress, insulin, alcohol, food quality, and time. After 50, that report card can change quickly because the engine is smaller and the storage signals are louder, but the loop can be interrupted. Not with punishment, not with endless crunches, not with a crash diet that burns muscle. With a stronger engine, steadier insulin, better sleep, cleaner food signals, less alcohol load, and enough repetition. That is why belly fat after 50 is not just about eating less. It is about making the body safe enough, strong enough, and metabolically clear enough to let go. When the system changes, the belly finally gets a different message. And that message is simple: stop storing everything here.